Hello everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We'll get started on this in just a few minutes. Just wait until we get a little bit more people on the broadcast. So hopefully this time it will actually be a WP quickie rather than 40 minutes from last time. But I'll try my best to keep on track. Great, thanks John. Thanks for letting me know you can hear me okay. I've not got my microphone plugged in, so it's just a laptop camera mic just now. Hey, Mr. Meowpoos. Love that handle. Hi, Susan. Are you guys all in Sydney? A horrible, dull, grey Sydney today. Okay, let's get rid of that banner. Okay. Okay, we've got 12 people on board for lunchtime, so that's pretty good. And it's roughly 1 o'clock, so I'm just going to dive in really quickly to this one. And let's see if we can get this done and over with in 30 minutes for you guys. So welcome to the WP Quickies series. These are kind of bite-sized WordPress tips and tricks just to get you started helping out on your WordPress website on your journey. And today we're going to be looking at tweaking your website with CSS. Now, this is a very beginner level talk today, but we get a lot of these questions at the meetups for beginners, and people maybe download a theme and they want to know how to change a button or how to move something or how to make something a different color or change the size. So today that's what we're going to be looking at. I'm going to be diving in, just seeing how you can tweak that theme using CSS within your website without any coding required at all. Oh, Joey from Singapore, welcome. Welcome to gloomy Sydney. Okay, let's go. So what are we going to look at today? Let's get right into it. We're going to be looking at what CSS is and what it can do, just very briefly at a high level. We're going to be looking at HTML tags, IDs, and classes, where to add that CSS within WordPress. And we'll do a quick demo, a quick look at how to use Chrome Inspect or Firefox Inspect element to identify the CSS, IDs, and classes so you can write some good CSS within WordPress. So I know that gets a little bit complicated. Cool. Okay, so let's jump right into it. CSS, what is it? Well, CSS, it's short for cascading style sheets. I'm not going to go into the technology as to why it's called that. That's what it's called. It's basically, it's the code that allows you to change the styling of most of the HTML elements on a page, such as buttons, paragraphs, divs, tables, titles, etc. And by styling, I mean the shape, the color, and the position of an HTML element, not the content. So not what's inside that, and not the title content, not the paragraph content, the words, but the style and the properties. So that's what CSS allows us to do. And I love this picture, the Stormtrooper here with the blue trousers, because I think it really demonstrates the concept brilliantly, changing the color of one Stormtrooper's trousers to blue. And that's exactly something that you might want to do with an HTML element on your web page. For example, a button. And being able to change its color and its shape and things like that. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. HTML tags, IDs, and classes. So how exactly do you target an HTML element on a web page? Let's have a quick look. In case you're unfamiliar, HTML tags, that's the structure of your content when it's displayed on the web browser. Those are your paragraphs, which are the angle brackets with a P, and they're the headings, your H1s, your H2s, all the way to H6, and the buttons, any links that you have, divs, which are sections and actual sections as well, header and the footer of the website. So it's the structural content that your browser knows and outputs onto your screen. So those are HTML tags. Let's look at IDs. So an ID is within the tag. So you can see here for an example, we've got a header number 2, and it's got an ID equals, and then author dash name, and then the content is Wil Brown. So although we can use CSS to target the tag, H2, but sometimes we want to target a unique thing on the website. So the ID, the whole concept of an ID within a tag is it is completely unique. So you should only have one ID on the web page. So for example, an H1 tag, you should really only have one H1 on a page. That would be your web page title. You could give that an ID, okay, because it's only going to be one of those. Another example would be, for example, so if you think about a checkout form, when you're getting ready to pay, you don't want multiple pay buttons. There's only going to be one on that page. So the author of that theme, they could quite easily just put an ID on that button to allow you to target that directly. And the ID example for here for the button is checkout-submit. And we'll have a look at how we can target these within CSS in the next couple of slides. But those are IDs. So IDs are very specific and very unique, mapping to one HTML element on the page. Let's have a look at the classes. So classes are a little bit different than IDs. Classes are groups of elements on an HTML page. Groups of elements that might have a similar styling you want to apply to it. For this example here, what I've done is I've copied a little bit of HTML code, and you can think maybe this would be the comments on your WordPress blog post article. So what we've got here is we've got a div, which is just a section, just a group of elements. And we've given a class of comment wrapper and another class of odd. So this can be, allows you to target that particular element. If you can think about comments are, can come in blocks under each other. So you can think of this as wrapping around one comment block, and then there's lots of these blocks down. So you'd want to, of course, have all your comment style pretty similar, because you don't want them all having different fonts and colors and layouts. So this is where the class comes in. It allows you to specify those groups of HTML elements and apply a style to all those groups all at once. So classes, there's going to be lots of HTML elements on a page with a similar class, and that's what we want. So that's the difference between IDs. The ID is one specific element on a web page, and the classes apply to blocks or groups of elements. Within this example block here, so we can see it's got a wrapper. So that wraps the entire one comment around. And it's got an odd class there as well. You might find that's a bit odd, no pun intended. What a lot of comments you'll see is, in order for you to see the separation for comments, sometimes they give a background a different color. So you might get the first comment would be white, and the next comment might be a sort of light gray, and the next comment white again. Just give a band so you can see the individual comments. And that's quite often you'll see, if you have a look into the code, you'll see that one comment wrapper has a class odd, and the other one has a class even. And that allows us to target the background color of that wrapper and give it a separate color for maybe just all the odd ones. And within this little sample code here, we've got another div, and it's got a class called comment user avatar wrapper. And you might think that might be the wrapper that surrounds the picture, the image of the commenter. And within that, you've got a little image, so the HTML tag called image. And that again has a class called user avatar. So we can use these classes to target those groups of comments, and there are going to be multiple of those on the page. So we might want to change the background color of the odd to gray, just so it stands out for each odd one. We could use the class comment-user-avatar-wrapper to give the background of the image a color to make it stand out. And again, we could use the class of the image to change the actual image that's being displayed. You might want to give it a border, and you might want to give it a specific size, or give it like a round shape as well. So let's have a quick look. So writing CSS and target. So how do we actually, or where do we put the CSS? How do we write that? Let's have a quick look at some of the CSS and how we actually write that. So in CSS, if we're looking to target those IDs, those unique things, in CSS, IDs start with a hashtag. So there's an example here. So thinking about that checkout button that we looked in the previous example, it had an ID of checkout-submit. So when we want to write our CSS, the way we lay that out is we target that ID name and we put a hash in front of it. And that tells the browser that this CSS is targeting an ID of name checkout-submit. And then we go into the code of the CSS. And for this example here, we're setting the text color to white and the background color to orange. And I'm going to go through a couple of examples, demonstration of that in a minute. So that's ID. So if you find an ID in CSS, you start it with a hashtag in that particular block. Similarly, for classes, if you want to write CSS to target a class, you use a dot. So the class that we had a look at before in the comment section, the user avatar was the image, and it had a class. Let's just go and have a quick look before. So this class here, the image class user-avatar, that's the one we're targeting in this code. So because it's a class, we use a dot. So the dot and then the name of the class, which is user-avatar, and that allows us to write code that's going to target the image and that's within that class. So here we're giving it a border radius of 50%, and that gives it a nice little circle. We're actually specifying the height of 75 pixels, and we're telling its width is going to be auto. So that's a bit of code that allows us to change and manipulate that image tag within that page. Now, what happens if you've got multiple similar classes and you still want to target something? So for example, just say there's a couple of user avatar classes on that page, and they're being used for different areas, different parts of the web page. You can start using, if you want to get more specific, you can start using the HTML tag in front of the class. So for example, here, if I want to make sure I'm targeting an image and not something else that's used in that class, then I'll use the HTML tag, which is ing, then put the dot for the class name and then the class name afterwards. And all that's basically saying is I want to target an HTML tag called image and with a class name of user avatar. Now make sure there's no spaces in between the HTML tag and the class name. So it's ing.user-avatar, and that means an image tag with a class name of .user-avatar. And you can use the same for IDs. So if that image had an ID, you could use ing as the tag name, then a hash, and then the ID name, and that would work. That was a target that specific element, but you shouldn't need to use that for IDs. Oh, let's just go back a little one and jump to comment. The other one under here is the div. So again, if you want a hierarchy to make sure that you get that specific grouping of classes, here an example in CSS is I'm targeting the image. So this is the same result as the one at the top, but I'm actually broadening out the structure of the HTML a little bit more. What I'm saying is I want to target a div with a class name of comment-user-avatar-wrapper. So that's the comment wrapper. And within that, so a space, I want to target the image tag that has a class name of user avatar. Now that does the same thing as the code above, but it just allows you to be more specific. You're saying, I want to target this specific group of HTML elements. So this is just in case your CSS doesn't work by targeting that particular class name, then you expand out to make sure you're getting more specific for the classes to make sure you're getting that particular element targeted. So where do we put all this CSS? Well, we put that in the WordPress customizer. So the customizer, it's had this option for quite a while. So if you go in the customizer and have a look towards the end of the options on the left-hand side, you'll see additional CSS. So you click on that and it brings up a box, and that's where we can put our CSS. And the great thing about doing this within the customizer is it's live preview. So you can play around with the CSS, you can test to make sure it's targeting the right thing and see the results. And when you're happy, you can press publish. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to jump in to a demo just now, and we're actually going to see this in live, just so we can get an understanding of how it works. So let me just share my screen just now. I'll stop that, and I will share the tab. Now I've got a Firefox session open here. Can you see that? That looks okay. So within Firefox here, I've just got a local WordPress installation running, and I've just written up a sample page here. So it's got a title at the top, and I've got 3 buttons down here. And let's just show you how you can actually find out the CSS class names and IDs, because that stumbles a lot of people sometimes. They just don't know where to look. So within Firefox and within Chrome, there's something called an inspector, an inspect element. And that's what you want to use to try and identify the tags, the classes, and the IDs. So let's have a look just now. This is Firefox. What I'm going to do is, let's go back up to the title. I'm going to right-hand click. You see that context menu? And we're looking for inspect element. And it's similar in Chrome. You right-hand click and click inspect. And the interface is very, very similar. So here we go. I've right-hand clicked, and it's opened up this panel on the right-hand side. And that's your inspector. And that just shows you all the HTML code. Okay. And because we've right-hand clicked on this element here, it's taken us right to where that element is within the code. And we can see here that that's an H1 tag with a class of entry-title, and there's the content sample page. At the top of this panel, you see there's a pointer here. You click on the pointer, and that allows you to target any of the particular content, and that will take you right in the inspector. It will take you to that particular place in the code. There's the paragraphs. I've clicked on that. Let's click on the arrow button again, and we'll go to the button. And you see that takes us right to where that HTML code for that button is within the web page. And now you can see that that button here, it's got a class wrapper, and it's got the link, the A link. And here we can see the class name for that link. And that's how you can find out any class and any ID and any tag on your web page, so that you can target with CSS. And this is the main thing that probably stumbles people. They just don't know where to look for these tag names, the classes, and IDs. So this is where you go. So Firefox Inspect, again, just another example, right-hand click, go down to Inspect Element. It opens up this browser, and it will jump you straight to where that element is. So if you want to browse through the HTML, you can do that. Do this, and when you're hovering over the different entries here, the different HTML tags, it's going to highlight all the different areas that you're going through. So see here, I'm hovering over the button there, and you can see on the right-hand side, it's showing you exactly where on the web page that is. So they work both ways together. So let's do a little bit of CSS coding. Okay, this screen's going to get a little bit cramped just now, because I'm going to open up Customizer while I've got the inspector as well. So it's great if you've got a big screen, but not so much on the small laptop here. Right, so here we've got it in Customizer, the sample page. Down the bottom here, additional CSS. Hope you can see all that. Click on that. Yeah, let's get rid of that warning page just now, because we all know what we're doing. Right, so let's try targeting some of the elements on the sample page. Let's just say we want to change the title color. So what we're doing here, let's close that inspect element. Okay, just say this is what we're doing. So we open up our page, we've got the customizer, we're ready to go. Let's ignore that warning here. Okay, let's change the title. Right-hand click, inspect element. It pops up your inspector window here, and it takes you straight to that particular tag. So we see here, it's an H1 tag, and it's got a class called entry-title. So let's write some code that targets that particular class name. So we pop over to the customizer here, and we do, remember for classes are dots, so we do dot, entry-title, which is the name of that class for the H1 tag, our curly bracket, and then we can start writing some CSS code. So let's change its color, COLOR, because it's American, of course, there's no U, colon, and we want to change it to, what color shall change to? Green. Green, and there we go. Live preview within the customizer. So you can now see that our sample page, the title is now green. And we can keep doing, we can do lots of things. You can just go for it. So let's say font size, 50 pixels. Wow, that's good. What else can we do? Text transformation. Uppercase. Let's make it all capitals. Did that work? I probably spelled that wrong. Text. Oh, I probably got the wrong one. But that's okay. We can get the idea of that. We can do another 100, make it super big. So that's pretty easy demo there. Now, just to give an example of targeting HTML tags, that code is the same. If I want to get more specific, I could target the tag with the class name. Now, this is not going to change because it's exactly the same thing. I could go h1, h1.entry title, and that's targeting that exact same element on the page. It's being just a little bit more specific. So if we go to the inspector element on the right-hand side here, we can see that h1 element, that has a wrapper. It's got the div wrapper. So we could actually target h1 inside there using CSS. So let's get rid of that. You can see the sample page title, it turns back to normal. Let's use this one instead, just to give you an idea of what's going to happen. So this has got a class name of entry header inner. So let's copy that. The class name, so we start with the dot. Copy that in. Okay, so now we're targeting that div name. That background color of orange. There we go. So we can do that to target the background, and then we can target the h1 tag again, so dot entry title, and we can give that a color of, let's go for hot pink. There we go, contrast, yep. But you get the idea of how this works? So let's go and have a look at some buttons. So I've got 3 buttons here. So now we're going to have a look at the power of classes. Now I'm keeping an eye on my time. 20 past. I've got 10 minutes to go, which is good, and we're almost finished this WP quickie. So let's have a look at the buttons. Let's select them using the selector up here. So the little selector here, and we'll click on the button, and it jumps to the HTML code here. So now we can start finding out the tags, the classes, and any IDs that are associated. So we can see here that this is a button block, a Gutenberg button block. It's got a wrapper class here of all the buttons, and then you've got the button itself, and then you've got an A-link inside. And we can have a look at the properties for that A-link just down below this little window on the right-hand side. See where it says styles? It's showing me here. See how that's highlighted? This bit here, WP -block -button __ link, and it's got a property background color of, well, kind of pinky color. So that's where we can see the current properties, and that allows us to know which CSS to change, which CSS class to change. So let's go ahead. We can see that button has got a class of WP -block -button _ link. Let's copy that. Control C, and we can actually see those buttons down below, the ones underneath. So they've got the same class. So let's have a look and see what we can do. We should be able to change all those buttons and give them a nice color. So dot, because it's a class name, WP -block -button _ link, curly bracket. Let's give it a background color of orange. We're into orange this week. There we go. Let's So see how the class name is applied to a group of similar elements. So now you can start setting all your buttons the same color on the page just by targeting them with CSS classes. But if you look closely, the middle button here, I've actually given it an ID. Okay, so for example, just say you had multiple buttons on your page, maybe the middle button was a checkout button that you want to target different. So you've given them all a consistent color of orange, but you want the checkout one to stand out. So you can see here, this one has got an ID, and that means that it is a unique element on the page. So let's copy that ID. Okay, so we'll set all the buttons to orange using the class, and the middle button's still got that same class, but it's also got an ID. So remember, IDs are hash, so hash, and the ID name, which is middle dash button, or curly brackets. Let's give this a background color of, what should we do, black. No, here's black. Oh, that didn't work. Why didn't work? What have I done? Hash middle button, background color. Now, why is that not working? That's why. Oh, silly me. Right. I've been targeting the div, and it's actually the link that has the color, not the div itself. So let me just change that. I'll put that back into where it should be. So the div has a unique ID, but that's not what the background color is. It's actually the A. So let's put an A for the target there. Yeah, there we go. Numpty, forgot about that one. So now we can see here, because it's got an ID, it's one specific element. Boom, we can actually target that one element within our CSS using that ID as the hash. So we could just go to town and all this. I don't want to show everything. I just want to give you a really, really quick idea as to how you can target and how you can change the CSS on your WordPress pages. Where to find the tags, the classes and IDs using the inspector as well, and how to write that code, the CSS within the customizer. So let's jump back to the presentation. Boom, boom, boom. I'll unshare that. I'll share the screen, application, PowerPoint. There we go. And the next one. Yep, so that's it for today. I've actually done a WP Quickie within a quickie time, which is good. So what we learned today, we've had a look at what CS is, just very high level and what it can do. It changes the HTML element styles and properties. We've had a look at HTML tags, what they are, what IDs are used for, unique elements, what classes are used for to group lots of HTML classes together and apply a style to them. Where to add CSS in WordPress, so that's the customizer, and how to use the browser, Chrome and Firefox, to find out those HTML element tags, their associated IDs, and their classes as well. So that's me, that's some of my details. So please feel free to hit me up in LinkedIn, connect with me in Instagram as well, and on Twitter. But I'm going to have a look, see if there's any questions just now, and if there's any questions, then we can answer those. Okay, let's have a look through. Comments. So Anne, anyone work with Affiliates Pro? Well, we're not doing Affiliates Pro for this quickies, but you can certainly ask us on Slack about that. Join our Slack channel at wpaustralia.slack.com, and yeah, go into the general channel. You can ask away for that. Michael. Oh, Michelle, sorry. If you have a child theme, do you put the CSS in the same place, i.e. theme customizer, additional CSS? Yes, you can do that. So when you have a theme activated within WordPress, you go into the appearance and themes, everything you do in the customizer, it will save it towards that theme. So if you've got your child theme activated, all the stuff you put in additional CSS and publish it, it'll be saved in the database against that child theme. So if you switch themes, then all that CSS will still be stored in the database, But then when you switch the theme, then you have to change the CSS for that theme. You get the different stuff. And again, if you switch back to the child theme, then all that CSS will reappear because it's stored in the database. So yes, you can put it in the customizer. That's a great question. Let's see. Susan, I use a plugin called Code Snippet for all coding that won't be affected by theme updates and no need for a child theme. That's great. So a plugin called Code Snippet, that's good. So that allows you to put CSS and store that separately from your updates. That's good. Let's see, any other questions here? Meryl, that's no problem. I'm glad you like these quickies, lunchtime quickies. Fahad, beside the top of today, conversion. Oh, conversation, yep, cool. Let's say I create a WordPress website, but I want it as a VM. Can I do that? I'm not quite sure what you mean, Fahad. Let's take that conversation onto Slack or Twitter. You can DM me directly and we can have a little conversation as to what you actually mean by VM for that one. Bob, thank you, sir. Just try my best to keep saying and keep in contact with people during these. Okay, guys, if no more questions about CSS or stuff, then great. I'm just going to let you guys go back to your lunch. No more questions? That's good. Okay, well, thank you, guys. This is going to be recorded, so you can look back on it over YouTube once it's processed. And please, there's a link below. Do I have a banner for that? Probably not. Let's just have a look. Quickies. No, so if you go in the description below in the YouTube video, then there's a link to a form that allows you to suggest some more WP quickies. So if you think there's a little topic, WordPress topic that you'd be interested in, that you don't know about, you don't understand, you think it'd be easy to cover in 30 minutes, and yeah, go for it. Open the form and just suggest one, and we'll try and queue some of those WP quickies up for the next weeks ahead until we can start meeting in person again. Looking forward to that. So thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you in another WP Quickies next